Major support for Carolina Business Review provided by Grant Thornton. Operating in more than 100 countries, our tax, audit, and advisory professionals specialize in helping companies unlock their growth potential. Colonial Life, providing benefits to employees to help them protect their family, their finances, and their futures. And Sonoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services with more than 300 operations in 35 countries.
As we close in on, dare I say, the end of summer and double dare I say the beginning of school, many of what has kept us delightfully distracted during the summer turns again to business, to policy, and to community activities. Welcome again to the most widely watched source on Carolina business, policy, and public affairs. I am Chris William, and thank you for supporting this dialogue, almost 30 years now. We will take a look at some of the pre-back-to-school activities, how getting back into the groove after the summer break may affect the economy, and of course some of those issues that matter most right here in this region. We'll start in a moment, and later on, the Chancellor of Elizabeth State University down east in North Carolina, Dr. Karrie Dixon, joins us.
Gratefully acknowledging support by Martin Marietta, a leading provider of natural resource-based building materials, providing the foundation upon which our communities improve and grow. Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association. Visit us at southcarolinablues.com. The Duke Endowment, a private foundation enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, healthcare, rural churches, and children's services. BARINGS, a leading global asset management firm dedicated to meeting the evolving investment and capital needs of its clients. Learn more at barings.com. On this edition of Carolina Business Review, Roz Lewis of the Greater Women's Business Council, Natalie Zeigler, City Manager, Hartsville, South Carolina, and special guest, Dr. Karrie Dixon, Chancellor of Elizabeth City State University.
Hello, welcome again to our program. One small correction, I said Elizabeth State University. It's actually Elizabeth City State University in North Carolina. We'll be joined by Dr. Karrie Dixon later on. Roz, welcome to the program. Natalie, good to have you back.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chris. Great to be here.
Happy almost fall. Happy back to school. It's hard to believe. So, Roz, let's start with that. So, as we're kind of staring down the barrel at school buses and school in session, and everybody getting serious again, how does that affect this already pretty historic economy that we have going on?
Well, I think, there'll be a boost, a temporary boost with the economy, because of parents buying school supplies, computers, due to technology now, today, and school clothing, unless they're wearing uniforms.
Yeah, sure.
And, that in itself always gives that tick up in the economy, before the holidays hit, of which retailers are then expecting more spending to take place during that period of time. But looking at what the forecast is that going to happen, given what is taking place with the economy today, which it is relatively strong.
Natalie is kind of a city leader, certainly a city manager, somebody in administration that cares about not just the city but the surrounding communities. As Roz characterized the economy in the back to school, do you see that as kind of a sunspot effect, and then but we still have this very long expansion going on? Is there anything that concerns you about the expansion, the back to school blip, anything?
For us, it's great because we have Coker University, so we have 1,300 students coming back into our community. Yeah. So the summer in Hartsville is slow for us, and we will see a bump. I know tomorrow, for example, we'll have 300 more people coming to Hartsville just for the day to experience our downtown. But for us, it's the students coming back that really helps our economy, but we're not seeing the slowdown. Right now, it is people calling me, wanting meetings nonstop with developers, and I think the opportunity zones are what is going to drive it for us, because people are starting to see the tax benefit of investing in these communities with these opportunity zones. So every call I'm getting is, we want to put housing in this zone, where can we go? We want to put a retail establishment in this zone, where can we be? So I don't see it slowing down for us anytime soon. And I know in South Carolina, for example, we have 2 opportunity zones in every county. So I feel like we're all going to see the benefit of investment in these areas.
So does this, as you described it, Natalie, as you've described it, Roz, do we see, artificial isn't the right way to say that, because those are bona fide economic development, I think, strategies. But coming back to you, Roz, at what point, so we've got a 10-year expansion, one of the longest on the books, certainly in the Carolinas, but certainly nationally as well. How does it end? Does it end with a bang? Does it slow down? Does it ever slow down? It doesn't seem like it's going to slow down.
Well, the question is, can we predict that, right? And what are those predictors that are out there, that indicate that? I think, some of the telltale signs is what's going to be the growth of small businesses. To her point with the opportunity zones that are taking place, that's an opportunity for startups, people to kind of chart their own wealth path, and that always stimulates the economy. Yes, it's corporations that help with that through job creations, but more importantly, it is small businesses that do that really, help that. And are we providing them the resources to be able to not just start, but strive, thrive more than anything else.
I want in just a second, I'm going to come back to you and talk to you a little bit about the women's business initiatives within that as a subset of the small business. Before we do that, though, Natalie, you said something on the phone when we were talking about it. You just referred to it again, and that's the idea of, I don't see a slowdown anytime soon. Mm-hmm. Not all the rural communities, and I would even argue that most of the rural communities cannot say that. And it's not because they're not doing things well. It's because the PD region seems to have something going on that maybe some of the other rural communities don't. What is the special sauce? It can't be the biggest employer necessarily, can't be the biggest college. What have you been able to get going in Hartsville that works so well?
I think Hartsville's just a special place because of Sunoco and because of Coker University and the Governor's School for Science and Math. But people there are entrepreneurs. They have ideas and they're willing to take the risk. So I don't know how we've created this kind of hub of people, but it's there and it's happening. And I think a lot of it is people are coming in from other areas and maybe their spouse is transferred there, but they have a unique skill set as well. So they're willing to start that business. So this idea we've always had, but we weren't able to do in a larger town. So people take the risk in Hartsville.
So the cost entry is a little bit lower because obviously it's a rural community. All right, Roz, let me bring you back to that, and let me unpack this a little bit more and from the point of view of a woman in business. So there's been renewed talk of equal pay coming out of the World Cup. I mean, it's certainly one of the big things. There is, of course, the Me Too movement. There's a larger percentage of women who lead tech and gig economy companies. So how has that changed the culture around women driving business growth?
Well, if we look at overall, the number of women businesses in this country, quite frankly, there's 12 million women businesses, and they employ over 9 million people. So when you think of that, and even in the region here, you have close to over 400. You got about 167,000 women businesses in South Carolina. You got 330,000 women businesses here in North Carolina.
So almost 500,000.
Yes. So that's quite a few women businesses that are there. And women, whether we want to eventually accept this, is the fact of how women manage businesses and how they think. In starting their businesses or growing their businesses. And at the end of the day, it is either going to be a B2C, a business to customer, or a B2B business to business. But the secret sauce there is always going to be customer service. It's always going to be driving what that growth is going to look like or growing their revenues.
But isn't that the case with any gender-owned business?
Well, yes, it should. It should be. Yes, it should be. However, women tend to be focused on different things, especially from an infrastructure standpoint of their business as it relates to their employees, how they manage their employees, how they, create an environment of engagement and comfortable, a place to work that they enjoy working, as well. So I think those things affect it. I think what more importantly has to take place, which is still a challenge, believe it or not, is women businesses being taken seriously, and that is still, believe it or not, a challenge for women.
Natalie, do you characterize that? Do you see that?
I do. I think most of our small businesses are owned by women, and I think it's the soft skills, the customer service, and even in my profession, I feel like as a woman, I feel like I can do my job with a different eye than maybe someone else would. If I'm running down the street on a 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to notice those little things that matter. And so I think if you drive to Hartsville, you'll say, this community is gorgeous. But
is that because you're out there
all the
cleaning
time we're thinking, there's a weed right there. I want the flowers to look a little different. I mean, and it really has impacted the way our city looks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, stay with us. We're going to have to restart our dialogue with our guest in just a moment. Hang with us. I hope you will. It's not like you can go anywhere. Coming up on the program, very interesting. I hope you will tune. I hope you watch all of them. But Steve Malik is an entrepreneur from the Triangle in North Carolina, but he's also the owner and one of the managers of the North Carolina Football Club, which is the men's side, and the North Carolina Courage, which is the female squad in North Carolina of soccer leagues in the nation. He will be joining us via Skype from his home in Raleigh to talk about the proposed possible MLS bid that Raleigh hopes to win. And this might be just a classic tale of Raleigh versus Charlotte again, but we will talk to Steve Malik. And also, Lou Kennedy is a spark plug for sure, as many people describe her. She is the CEO of Nephron Pharmaceuticals, and she will join us again from Nephron Pharmaceuticals in Columbia, South Carolina. Finding the right CEO, of course, in any size organization is always critical. It's important, and that's no truer than it is in higher education. However, it seems like there's been a lot of turnover at the top in the house in colleges and universities lately. Joining us now is a newly named chancellor at one of the UNC system schools in eastern North Carolina, Dr. Karrie Dixon, chancellor of Elizabeth City State University, joins us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chris. Happy to be here.
Dr. Dixon, first of all, thank you for making the trip. You know, it could almost be a farther point, maybe Matteo is farther.
Exactly.
But that's probably right out your back door anyway.
Right.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Dixon, what is job one? What do you have to get done?
So job one for me, Chris, is really coming into this institution, which I did about a little over a year ago. I actually started as interim and was just named permanent December 14th of 2018. So it's exciting. But I also knew going into this position, there was a lot of work that needed to be done. The university had faced many, many challenges over the last few years. And so there were some specific things that I knew I needed to work on. One being just looking at the operational effectiveness of the institution, looking at building relationships with the community, but also looking at growing enrollment. And one thing that was very helpful is that the North Carolina General Assembly chose Elizabeth City State University as an NC Promise campus. And so our tuition, $500 per semester for in-state students, $2,500 per semester for out-of-state students, has really helped to leverage the enrollment piece. So I'm excited about this work.
I want to come back to that later on in the dialogue about what it costs now as we talk about student debt and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But I also want to refer back to, there was an article in the News and Observer in Raleigh, Dr. Dixon, and it was talking about the chairman of the board of the UNC system, Harry Smith, along with interim president, Dr. Bill Roper, were looking more for, and this is my words, they were looking more for the CEO type of leadership and management skilled at the top of the house in the UNC system. Do you find that is going to be the focus, is to manage a school like Elizabeth City State, not so much as an educator, but also as a manager of an enterprise to be successful?
Well, I think you have to look at leadership of universities both ways. You are running a business. Customer service is important. An organization of that size is one that you go into it having to understand your role, being working with the faculty, alumni, the community, students, staff, all those different groups of populations of people that make up the institution are important, and that's an important skill set to have. The business piece of it, definitely there are some of our institutions that have faced some operational challenges, and looking at it from the standpoint of physical management, I can see a CEO's experience being able to adjust and able to provide that type of leadership that's necessary in that realm of thinking. However, looking broader in that is the university, the core is the academic, it's the core. And so working with the faculty, it takes a lot of time to really make sure that your faculty, your academic programs, all of that's in line. And also working with looking at our governing structure, working closely with our chair, Harry Smith, which I'm really happy to be working with him as chair of the UNC Board of Governors, and also with our North Carolina General Assembly. So it's almost like as a chancellor, you wear many different hats. So I think having that business experience is an added plus, but you also need a lot of the other pieces in order to really provide great customer service to those that you serve. And in my situation, you know, looking at the citizens of North Carolina, you know, they come first. And so having that piece, that relationship there is really what provides great stability for the institution.
Roz, question?
Well, one of the questions I have is, what is Elizabeth City, you know, State University doing? What plans do they have to ensure that the students are prepared for the future? You know, I come from a background of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And corporations as well as supply chain management. And are there plans to offer courses such as that to prepare them?
Definitely, Roz. You know, I'm really excited about what we're doing in that area. There are some things that we need to improve on, and we're working very diligently to do so. And what I mean by that is the entrepreneurship piece. We have that in our business school, but we also are taking it over to our aviation science program. And so introducing our women students to STEM, also introducing them to what we have to offer in the aviation science area. One piece of that, or one example, would be in this fall will be the launch of our new degree program in unmanned aircraft systems, drones. And so this is innovative, and this is a program that Elizabeth City State University is going to be the only university in North Carolina offering this degree program focusing on drones. Now, I say that because there is a concentration within that program for entrepreneurship. Right. Why? Because when we train our students and we graduate them in aviation science with a degree in unmanned aircraft systems, they can go out and open their own businesses. And now there is a great demand for drone usage in law enforcement, also in agriculture, and I can go on and on. So I think this is an innovative way to build a pipeline and use of technology, but also to get our women students involved, because you don't see them reflected as often in those areas. And so having that introduction, I think, will help us to see things change some in that area.
Natalie?
That's all really exciting. Talk to me about how you plan to integrate Elizabeth City State into the city. What plans do you have there?
So that's been, Natalie, actually that's been a priority. In the past, there have been some challenges, as I mentioned, that the university has faced that has really reflected in the community from the standpoint of the university and the community not working as closely as they should and could. And so one thing that I really wanted to make sure that happened is that we build those bridges with the community. For example, my installation is going to be on September 6th, and one thing that I intentionally did in that regard is to say this is a community celebration. We want the community to be a part of this. And in northeastern North Carolina, we're surrounded by small businesses, surrounded in Elizabeth City. The largest employers, Elizabeth City State and the U.S. Coast Guard in that area, but working closely with our small businesses, producing opportunities, whether that's certificates, any type of other credential that an entrepreneur may want to better manage their small business. So we're in the process of a strategic plan right now through 2023. And that's a real focus: community engagement, community involvement, bringing the community, bringing our small businesses together to support the university and really build a model that we hope will be replicated across the state.
Speaking of models, I want to come back to something you said, Dr. Dixon, around the funding of it. probably it's certainly not an underreported story that there's $1.5 trillion of student debt in this nation. And North Carolina and South Carolina both have their share of that. As you said, Elizabeth City State is one of the schools for NC Promise, and that's a $500, is a value play for sure. Is that an answer for the nuclear runaway option of tuition increases? Or is that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Dr. Dixon, but is that a program that makes some families and students feel good, or is there something there that can be leveraged out to have a bona fide change in holding back these tuition increases that we're seeing?
Well, first, I think the General Assembly is making a major statement with NC Promise, basically saying to the citizens of North Carolina that we want higher education to be affordable. And so I think putting such a program in place and starting with the 3 institutions, Elizabeth City State University, Western Carolina, and UNC Pembroke, is a big statement for our citizens to say education is affordable and it's an opportunity for everyone. And so when we look at the tuition, we've seen a big increase in our growth. This year we grew almost 20% overall in our enrollment. We grew 57% in transfer students. And so people are beginning to see how important affordability is for their educations and the investment there. And so I think having the General Assembly enact this type of initiative is something that we can really, really benefit from as we think about higher education.
Roz?
Yeah, well, and the other question I have is, centers around when we were talking earlier about the economy here, is the impact of higher education, but also trade. Right, of students with skills of being able to engage. And I do agree they still need to have the higher education component. Right. But what I'm so excited to hear is the fact that enrollment has increased. Yes. It's a message that anyone can attend school. Exactly. And more importantly, are you engaging those small businesses to also help and be involved, in that portion of it by providing scholarships, by coming to speak to the students, literally having them, when you say an engaging community, be a part of it. That way there's a return on investment. Exactly. And the return on investment is really what we want our students to know and understand the value of their education, because those relationships, as you mentioned, are critical to the success of our students when they graduate. We want them to go into jobs, and we're seeing an uptick in that. I can't keep a student in aviation science who concentrates in flight more than 6 months. And I would love to rehire them and have them serve as flight instructors, but we can't keep them more than 6 months. Why? Because they have a unique skill set now. They have a license and people are coming after them. I want to see that across our majors. And so one thing that we're doing with the business school at Elizabeth City State University is we are bringing in small business owners on panels, talking to them in a more intentional way to offer internships and co-ops and other things. We have students who interned over this summer, more than we've had in the last few years. So those relationships with the community are critical to the success of the university as well as to our students and their future. So that's something we're definitely honing in on, and it's going to be one of our goals, one of our major goals in our strategic plan, to continue to be intentional and to make sure that we have that pipeline there and those relationships.
We have less than a minute left. Do you have a quick question?
Just a quick question. Are you seeing a trend to more non-traditional students and more online programs?
We actually are. And so Elizabeth City State University in the past has not really played in the space of online. And within the last 12 months, after taking the post of Chancellor there, we've grown to 4 online programs. One online program that has skyrocketed is a master's in elementary education online. That's huge.
But you teach teachers anyway. I mean, that fits to your curriculum.
Yes, yes. We were founded as a teachers college in 1891. And so feeding into the whole need across the state for producing quality teachers, that's important. But we also want teachers to know that they have the flexibility where they can come back and earn their master's degree. And having that administered online is a great way for a teacher who is currently working to be able to accomplish that goal.
Well, I hate to cut you off,
Oh,
Dr.
that's
Dixon.
okay.
I mean, there's a lot more to go, and you certainly seem to be not sitting on your hands
Yes.
in northeastern
Right,
North Carolina.
right, exactly.
So well done.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for making the trip to be on the program.
Thank you, I appreciate
to
it. Thank you, Chris.
Natalie, welcome back. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Roz, welcome.
Thank
nice
you.
to have you.
Thank
Please
you.
come back. All right. Until next week, I'm Chris Woody. I hope your weekend is good. Good night.
Major funding for Carolina Business Review provided by Martin Marietta, Colonial Life, the Duke Endowment, BARINGS, Grant Thornton, Sonoco, Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, and by viewers like you. Thank you. Promotional consideration provided by Business North Carolina Magazine. For more information, visit carolinabusinessreview.org.